everyone. Good morning. Welcome. And we all settled already. Have coffee? Yeah? Okay. So again, can I thank you all for coming out this morning. It was a bit wet, but we all made the effort to get here. Thank you. And we will go around and introduce ourselves before we commence the meeting. I'm Councillor Taylor and I'm the chair of the panel.
Good morning everyone, I'm Councillor Oliver Edwards and I represent Guyson Norton on Leeds City Council.
I'm Catherine Scott and I represent Airedale and Glenfrice in Wedby.
And I'm Maureen Cummings, I represent Crofton, Ryland, Morton here in Wakefield and I'm Vice Chair.
Andrew Carter, Leeds City Council representing Cardiff and Farsley Ward.
Good morning, Jo Sykes, I'm one of the two independent members.
I'm Rebecca Westerman, I'm Policy and Research Assistant at Wakefield Council.
Good morning, I'm Catherine Johnson, I'm the Chief Finance Officer for West Yorkshire Police.
John Roberts, Chief Constable, West Yorkshire.
Tracy Braden, Mayor of West Yorkshire. Alison Lowe, Deputy Mayor of West Yorkshire.
Wendy Stevens, Research and Performance Manager for the Policing and Crime Team.
Trevor H, Independent Member. Councillor Anthony Smith, Linley and Kirkby.
Councillor Janet Russell, Bradford Council, Airedale Ward.
Councillor Anne Kingstone, Calderdale Council, Skircutt Ward.
Becky McIntyre, Director of Resources and Transformation at Calderdale Council, advising the panel today in capacity of Section 151.
Sharon Fraser from Wakefield Council, Legal Advisor to the panel. Fiona Bernardo, Policy and Partnerships Officer at Wakefield Council.
Thank you all for the introduction, and we will move on to item 1, which is apologies.
So we've had floor apologies for the meeting today. Councillor Jackie Ferguson with Councillor Scott deputising, Councillor Gwen Lowe, Councillor Chris Hayden and Councillor Nusrat Mohammed from Bradford.
Thank you. Item 2 is to approve the minutes of meeting held on 13th of December. Are there any comments? Is everyone happy with the minutes? Are there anything to say? So could someone move?
Chair.
Thank you. Item 3 is an urgent item. I've brought 2 items onto the urgent item. And the first one is Councillor Carter. We all know Councillor Carter has been with us for a very short time and this committee. But she has said remarks in here for the few months she has been with us. Councillor Carter was the Deputy Mayor of Airedale and Bridge House Ward. Councillor and her colleagues have spoken in depth of her passionate commitment to the public service and a very belief of the strength in her community and our community in West Yorkshire. Because listening to Councillor Carter, she did not just speak for her community, she spoke for the whole West Yorkshire. Our thoughts are with her family, friends and colleagues who feel very lost in debt of Councillor Carter. As a panel member, we have thought this issue came through during a debate on road safety in July. We all witnessed her passion, the passion she showed. She was not just a community for her community. As I said earlier, she was a public servant and is highlighted in the whole of West Yorkshire and beyond probably. Her time on this panel was sadly cut short. Councillor Carter could have done much more and she has given us the energy to carry on with her work. The Deputy Mayor would like to say something, but before the Deputy Mayor comes in, I'm going to open up for other members who has known Councillor Carter to share just a few brief words with her. But just to say, she was a people person. The few time, I don't know much of Councillor Carter, but people do know her, but I did draw to Councillor Carter humour, and she was just absolutely amazing. So we are going to do a minute silent, but let's get the comments first.
Thanks very much. I feel quite much Geraldine Carter was an amazing woman. She was a fearless and worthy foe in this room, but she was a wonderful friend too. I knew Geraldine for many years on the police authority. When I was chair of the police and crime panel, she was assiduous in her passion for policing and for West Yorkshire, but also when I sat before her and she held me and Tracy to account. She was a public servant to the very end. She loved Brighouse, and apart from the times I met her in a policing context, she invited me into her patch on several occasions, and she was exactly the same in her community as she was here at the panel. Sadly missed, and I'm really, really sorry that she's no longer here with us, because what a woman.
Thank you. Member Hunt.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mayor. Geraldine was a friend of my wife's and of mine over a number of years. She wasn't just a legend in Calderdale, but a legend all over Yorkshire. Fearless is the word. And with I suppose you would say that she's in short supply these days. She would stand up for her constituents against her own party, against anybody else's party. If she thought her constituents were being let down, she would stand up for them. Pity there aren't more of them today in public life, but she would. And I shall miss her. I'm sure her family and friends will miss her. The people of Calderdale will miss her, but wider than that, people in West Yorkshire will miss her. She was a legend. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
I'm not sure if saying I had the pleasure of working with Geraldine as a relatively low-scale local government officer over 25 years ago is the correct word, but she was absolutely formidable, and her support and tenacity in working for her ward councils came through, and she will be much missed in Ripponden and, as Councillor Carter has said, across the whole of West Yorkshire. As an officer, it was easy to respect the work that she did and to recognise that that passion, commitment and her integrity was second to none. It became very easy to work for her because of that passion that she showed. It was then a great honour to work with her on the very first police and crime panel, which she came to having stood in the elections for PCC, but came and brought that passion to the panel, and it was a delight that she came back only a few months ago, and I was hoping that we'd have much more time to work together. She will be much missed.
Councillor Collins.
Yeah, Geraldine came on this panel at the same time as I did, and I remember sitting opposite her and thinking, oh, we've got a feisty individual here, very, very challenging I thought, but very effective. Her points were well made, and she was effective, and I didn't know her, but I have no doubt she was a star in her community. She was certainly a star on this panel.
Thank you. Trevor.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think the word formidable has been used. I'll attest to that. I first met Geraldine when I joined the police authority back in 2005. My very first meeting, I ended up sitting opposite her. And I had no idea what the police authority panel really did, apart from the meeting and had an induction. And it got quite a testy meeting across the tables, with Geraldine usually standing her ground and giving as good as she got. Then at one point she got upset, visibly upset, and started crying and left the room. And I said, oh, I better go outside and make sure she's okay. And when I went outside, she said, I'm okay, Trevor. She says, it's tears of frustration because I can't get my way with these people. So that was my introduction to Geraldine. I sat with her on many of the police authority panels. She was, as I say, a formidable opponent. She stood up so well for her community, and we even heard, I think a few months ago, again, her plea about the diversion of traffic of the M62 down the Ripponden Road, which, if anybody knows it, is a real issue, and she has been fighting that cause for years, amongst all the other causes. So yeah, she'll be great for this. She was a very special person, and I think holds a place in all our
Councillor Kings.
Geraldine was a fighter to the end, and sometimes described as a street fighter. She was so passionate. It's a mark of what a fighter she was and how passionate she was. That she was in the intensive care unit before Christmas in Calderdale. I know that our local vicar had given her the last rites on the Tuesday, and on the Thursday she emailed a complaint to our chief executive. That's how much of a fighter she was. And because she was such a fighter, there was a general belief that she would make it through. And so it was a real blow to people in Calderdale, and particularly in the council, that she didn't. A shock to us all. And it's a mark of how incredible she was that I'm here, a Labour councillor, mourning a Conservative councillor. Those of you that are members will know that that happens, that there's admiration across the aisle, and there was definitely admiration across the aisle for Geraldine in Calderdale. May she rest in peace and rise in glory. Amen.
Naturally, I've sent condolences on the West Yorkshire Police to her family because she's had a great impact on policing. She's been a friend of policing, a critic, a supporter, a complainer, but very much an advocate, and there's many people in policing who will miss her. But my family have known Geraldine for many years. My late father was a great friend of hers, and whilst they had different political views, her good humour, grace and decency always shone through. Like you all, he had a great deal of admiration for her. I knew her from the first days personally, from the police authority days where I failed to go through an interview which she was sitting on. She often reminded me of that, what a travesty it was and I should have been selected. How outrageous it was that they didn't choose me. And I was reassured it was okay. It's okay, I'm here for a long time. And so her predictions have come true actually, that I'm sitting before you today. I saw her later in last year when she was very ill. But she was actually deputising for the mayor. Even how ill she was, that sense of public service drove her on forward, and she will be missed, and she goes with our blessings and our love.
I just want, as Mayor, just to associate myself and the Combined Authority with all of these fantastic comments. And isn't it proof that public service is place over politics? And what a fine 5-star gold-plated woman she was. And as a woman in public service, I am forever grateful for people like Geraldine who will step up in often difficult times in feisty rooms and make the case for the people that she represents. So I just wanted to associate myself with those comments. And all love and support for the people of Calderdale, her friends and family. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? No? May Geraldine rest in peace, and she will surely be missed in the community and beyond. She definitely missed on this panel. So could you all stand and join me in the minute of silence, please? Thank you. Thank you. The second item on the agenda is we don't just give sad news and all, we give good news. So our good news today is, on behalf of the panel, we would like to congratulate Chief Constable John Robinson, sir, and his knighthood. We are also pleased for you, your achievement and your accomplishment and great work you have done. You have worked so hard for our city, and most of all for the people of West Yorkshire. We valued you, and you can't say the word, no, it's gone. I've shown the community that you was the right person, and this title you truly deserve. So, on behalf of the panel, Sir Robinson, congratulations and continue doing the good work. What you're doing for West Yorkshire is appreciated. We love having you as our chief constable. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Should we move on to Tracy? You might want to do it a bit later on with Sir Tom. So should we move on to the main issue today? So that was item 3. Item 4 is where members have, if there are any declaration, is members have anything to declare today? No? Thank you. We move on to item 5. Item 5 is just the note. So we will move on to item 6, and I will just hand over to the mayor before. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. Of course, I also share your pride and many, many congratulations to Sir Robbins. It was a travesty that you weren't Sir already, in my opinion. But I'm really, really pleased that your hard work and dedication has been reflected in this honour and this title. And I know this won't deter you at all or make you complacent, and you will continue doing the dedicated hard work that you have always done for our region. So thank you on behalf of all of us in my office and the wider Combined Authority. Okay, thank you so much, Chair. So this is the substantive item on the agenda for the meeting today, which is my precept proposal 2627. I'd just to open with the consultation, because I do think it's important that we reflect our desire to make sure that we reach as many people from all communities as possible. And the fact that in the past our postal service and consultation, I don't think gave us that variety of voices. So I am really grateful and delighted with the work that the team have done to widen out this precept. So the consultation ran between the 19th of December to the 21st of January, and we launched at the earliest available opportunity once the government cap was announced. Residents were asked to respond to the proposal of the equivalent £15 annual increase on Band D households, which corresponds to 29 pence per week. The consultation involved both online, and very important that is, in person I think is more important, and promoted extensively via partners, community alert, social media and press media. And from that hard work, we received our highest ever response rate, with 3,474 residents responding to the consultation. And it shows, this combined online and in-person survey, 57% of respondents supported the proposal to increase the council tax police precept. The in-person work with residents, 912 people, shows 71% supported the proposal. The paper goes through the demographics in detail, and it's worth noting the team reviewed the data daily to identify where there were gaps, took deliberate steps to target underrepresented groups, whether that be through in-person work, in specific locations, or targeted online promotion. The report also outlines the reasons provided by respondents for supporting or, of course, opposing the precept proposal. 71% of those spoken to in person supported the proposal, and also accompanied, and this is very pleasing, by a high volume of positive feedback about West Yorkshire Police, which I would really like to highlight and commend. Comments were mainly based on good levels of confidence and trust in the force, effective visibility in high crime areas, positive personal experiences reporting instances, and increased support for additional funding for West Yorkshire Police. Now we have Wendy, Sharon, Anna and Andy with us for further questioning, And there are some individual stories that are also very illuminating of people who've gone through the worst of times who are still supportive of an increase in funding for the police. And if you want more information, they're here to support that request. So, Chair, shall I pause there if anybody would like to ask questions about the consultation?
Yes, a few questions. First,
thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mayor. Obviously, we welcome the improved engagement. We're never happy, we always want more, but well done to the team. My question is kind of around what I see as a representation gap. So, the report defines representations, a representative sample of 666 respondents to reflect 2.35 million residents of West Yorkshire, and we've had a really good response this year, so we're well above that. However, the 2021 census shows that 23.4% of our population are from non-white backgrounds. Yet this group only made up 10% of the consultation responses. So given that support for the precept among non-white residents was significantly lower at 51%, and white residents at 61%, do you acknowledge that the headline figure of 57% likely overstates the public consent by undersampling the very communities that are more sceptical, and how can we try and, going forward, get more engagement, and should we be noting that in future reports?
Thank you. That's a really good challenge. Can I just say, over Christmas particularly, as you know, the weather was terrible, so I just want to thank colleagues who were determined to get into communities that are often not heard in really poor conditions. So it was a difficult job to make sure that it was cost-cutting across all communities. But I wonder whether you'd like to just speak to that, Sharon.
Yeah.
Obviously, you were out there on the front line.
Yeah, in the snow.
Yeah, exactly that.
It was frost this year, it wasn't quite snow. Obviously, we do everything we can to make sure that all of the engagement is as inclusive as possible, and I know every attempt was made with the online survey and the online work. In terms of the in-person work, I think we achieved 23% of people who were non-white, and that is because we're able to put ourselves in locations where we know we're going to get a much broader representation of members of the community, and you'll see that we place ourselves in bus stations and shopping centres where everyday members of the public are within that short time frame, which is just a couple of weeks, the first kind of couple of weeks in January. So every attempt was made for it to be as inclusive as possible. And obviously we've learned a lot through the work that we've done over the summer in relation to the serious violence work, in terms of where are some of the good locations to go to in each district to get a more representative sample. So whilst I understand and accept the online figures, please be assured that through all of the different groups and organisations that we work with, and many of you around the table will know about the different community organisations that we work with, through May Safer Community Fund and everything else, we did reach out as far and wide to ensure the survey was as representative as possible in terms of the people that fed into it. We can always do better. We always try harder. The equality, the inclusivity is always there for us. It's in the policing crime plan. It's always there in all of the strategies. So it's a big focus. And we will try to do better next year.
Thank you. Anderson, do you want to add?
Yeah, so I think it's important to recognise that out of the 3,500, nearly 2,500 were online. The vast majority of those were white British men, and only 52% of the online responses were in favour of £15. So it was always a hard ask for the face-to-face interactions to swamp the online, and as you know, we went online this year in a really big way because we didn't want to send out the surveys by post, because I think it was £23 per person last time, which was not good value for money for the public. So it seemed to speak to a certain demographic before Christmas, and actually when we came back on the 5th of January, we only had 48% of the public saying yes. and the vast majority of that, as I say, was online and white British men over 50. So was a lot of work then done with the communities to get to where we are. I think it's important to recognise that black and brown communities are historically more mistrustful of policing, and we know all the reasons for that, we've talked about it many times. But I would point the panel to the fact that over the last 12 months, with the work of the Police Race Action Plan, satisfaction has increased 7.5% amongst our black communities here in West Yorkshire. And even though we only have 10% overall, where we spoke to people, and I was out on one of those days in Bradford, actually black communities wanted effective policing just as much as white communities. They wanted to be safe in their communities, and the black people I spoke to wholeheartedly supported the increase. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I just have a quick follow-up?
Yeah.
Thank you. I think we all recognise the hard work that's been done in trying to get that engagement, and I completely accept the headline of 27%. Just think perhaps for future reports where, despite our efforts, we've not got that representative engagement, it might be important just to note that context as well.
Thank you. And it does show that the online is not the right audience for us necessarily, because it is skewed to white men over 50. And we've said this since I became the mayor, haven't we? That it's the wrong. It's not everyone responding. So we're trying to turn the juggernaut of people who are engaging with us, and that's why this in-person work is so important. But your point is, honestly, we will always try and do better. It's really important for us that we get the support of everybody in the community, and not just the people who are going to help us with our decision. It has to be everybody.
Jo, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, thank you, Sharon, for saying that you'll continue that hard work. It would be really useful, I think, in future reports if we can have a comparator to what it was in the previous year, so we can see that those efforts, I mean, we could go away and look, but it would just help us to actually demonstrate that those efforts that have been made, and hopefully the results secured in terms of ensuring that the responses reflect the communities. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, and also just to point out that last year the face-to-face responses were much lower. Only 52% of face-to-face responses supported the increase, as opposed to 71%. So I think where you're able to talk to the public and put those arguments to them, answer those questions, overwhelmingly people will support it.
Thank you. Councillor Cummings. Go ahead. You don't? Okay. So
just a comment.
That was a comment. Yeah. So we'll go on to Councillor Russell. No, he's here, but not yet. He's not jumping the queue. Councillor Russell.
Okay. Give you the consultation then. Can I just ask, online kind of gives us a big range, it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all sorts of things. Did you aim online consultation at different groups of people?
Yeah. Would I like to respond to this? We have a strategy. Good. that Andy led.
So yeah, from the communication side of things, with the online survey and our approach from a communications perspective, all those channels that you mentioned, it's a blended approach to start with, against the engagement work, and we know, we get those kind of outcomes from the reach on social media. But we also know that we can kind of target areas through the demographics that the actual social media channels allow us to approach and target audiences around. So we were able to respond to, knowing that the levels might be low in Calderdale, for instance, and then we could target, some of the influence around social media in a particular district. So we're alive to that, and we could move as the actual consultation went ahead. So we tried to move around through, the things that we were able to kind of utilise through those kind of tools on social media. That said as well, we also had a separate approach where we used organic social media, which means, looking ourselves in the ways that we could look for groups that were already there, diverse groups as well across the communities. The difficulty there is we have to request access to those groups, so we have to kind of approach them and ask if we can drop messages into their particular forums, whether it's a local district forum, or a Muslim group, for instance, that we might want to speak to. So we had some success there, though, and we reached quite a few different groups on the organic socials. I think it's in the appendices. But that's the way that we can try to target and mitigate some of that kind of overarching paid for social media that we just know is getting a certain kind of response. So we did attempt to do that, and we tried to do more around that as best we can, and we worked with police as well around their EDI teams and their networks as well to be able to reach as far and wide as we could.
It's just kind of surprising that it was mostly men over, white men over 50 on all those different...
Which we welcome. We want men over 50 to share
we
their
love men
views.
over 50.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Did you want to ask the same question? Similar question.
3 points, really. I have to go on about the dates of the consultation. And I know it's not necessarily your fault, but the 19th of December to the 20th of January is not the best time of year to get a big response. And this is not a criticism of the officers, I think they've done a great job. But, as Councillor Covington said, I'll plagiarise her figures that we heard a little earlier. The consultation represents 0.03% of the population of West Yorkshire. That is not comprehensive consultation. As I say, it's not necessarily your fault, but it ain't good enough by a long way. And what to me it bespeaks of, and I want you to answer this, is that the vast majority of the people in West Yorkshire are saying, what's the point responding to this consultation? As usual, they've already decided, they've made their minds up and they're going to do it, why should we bother? How would you propose to get over that? But actually, that's exactly what you've done. You've already decided what you're going to do.
Yeah, please do.
You asked the same question last year.
I did.
And you challenged us to do better, and we've done better. We've more than doubled the number of responses that we had last year, and hopefully next year we'll double it again. So we'll get better and better each year as we go forward. As it says in the report, 660 something of other is statistically relevant, and obviously on that basis we can say that a majority of West Yorkshire residents are in support of the £15 preset. It is a fact that every single officer of the Police and Crime Commissioner up and down the country, and Deputy Mayor and Mayor, we've spoken to many, have got very, very low responses, but higher than the previous year. So people are engaged, people want to have their voices heard, but many people are clearly very satisfied with policing and didn't feel the need.
Sorry, Chair.
And if I may just say about the timing, as you reflected, we were waiting for the government to give us the cap because it's really important that we understand the parameters that we're working. And actually, whilst it was cold and obviously, it's not an extensive period, but it was during Christmas, so people were out and about shopping and in those public spaces where actually we wanted to get people so we can have those face-to-face conversations. But also, we have to also thank our teams that during that period when most people are doing their Christmas shopping and think about their families, they are out there working for the people of West Yorkshire to try and get those conversations. So it is not necessarily always in our gift, but we will extend the time as much as we can to, as we've said, our ambition is to continue to grow those numbers, but the feedback has been incredibly positive.
Yes, Chair. Well, by Alison's calculation, then, in 3 years' time, you will have the grand total of 1% of the population of West Yorkshire responding.
Okay,
That really will count.
Thank you. Councillor Kingston.
I just want to congratulate you on it. The in-person survey in particular, I know following Councillor's comments about the ethnicity, that the representation of ethnicity in the in-person matches those census results that you're talking about. So that in-person survey is really powerful and is beyond just the in-person, is way beyond the level required for statistical confidence. So I'm really reassured by that. I think you've done well.
If I may say as well, Chair, we are here to support councillors who would like to run workshops in their community because they are trusted members of the community. so we can up those numbers. So, Councillor Carter, if you want to run a workshop in your community where you can get those numbers, the people you represent, to be part of the survey, we would give you all the support you need.
I remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
of course,
Sharon,
of course.
Bring it down.
She's bringing it down. Don't say you want more people doing it and you don't do anything about it.
Come along.
Bear that in mind. Councillor Carter don't even have to do a workshop. If we interact with this community, like myself, who goes to the coffee mornings, who go to wherever they are, churches, and I ask them to go and vote for it. So that was the whole idea why it was out in the public domain, and councillors have the flyers could share it in their contact to their community.
Chair, may we suggest a friendly competition that how many people can councillors around the table actually interact with on the next consultation? It would be very interesting to see.
Thank you. Did you want to follow up this?
Yeah, it's along the same lines as Councillor Kingston. Even though it was a low, and you quoted my figures, I think it was still double what had happened the previous year. I welcome your offer of running workshops, because it is about males over 50, but it's about women, but it's also about kids.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
kids have a view as well. I know they don't contribute to the precept if they're under 18, but having said that, they still have a view, and I think we should be collecting that view as well. So I welcome the offer to run consultation workshops, and I hope over the next year that we can continue to talk about that, and we are prepared to run workshops in our communities to actually get a collective view, good or bad, because, you know, not everybody likes the police, but we all want the police to be there. And maybe the price could be an additional PCSO.
That's not necessarily my gift, but I'm sure the Chief Constable has heard you.
Okay, good. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. I would definitely like to associate with the comments about the value of in-person consultation, and also to recognise the work that has been put in. I think there's a real value to it. I also welcome what you've said about engaging with councillors, and maybe as a suggestion, looking ahead this year, perhaps in October, later in the year, even though the consultation starts later, I think it would probably be helpful to for all of us to think about how we can take up that offer, and because the more in person, the better. I'd like to ask a bit more about some of the responses. So I think all of us around these tables want to make sure that we're taking people with us, and not only those people who indicated their support, but where people indicated reservations or where people didn't support the proposal. It would be helpful to understand more about that. So building on the Deputy Mayor's comments earlier on, what work is being done to address some of the reasons that people gave for not supporting an increase, and how you plan to take that forward?
Thanks. There was an empty box where people could add comments about their concerns and so on, but do you want to just answer that question?
Yeah, with the 71% of people that said they wanted to support the proposal in person, obviously we got lots of positive comments and we've talked about those. In terms of the people, it was very similar in terms of the people who chose not to support it. We did speak to people, as you would expect, who were struggling financially and couldn't afford to support the proposal. We spoke to people whose lived experience of working with the police had been negative. So again, in terms of their attempts to report crimes or how the police had dealt with them. So we spoke to individuals who had had really kind of bad personal experiences, and just for your reassurance, on every consultation that we're out and about, we will always meet individuals who will disclose information to us or share information which we know that doesn't feel quite right. And as you'll know, we've got a casework team within the combined authority, within policing and crime. And so any concerns that we need to feed in either directly to the neighbourhood policing team within West Yorkshire Police, we do that, or we'll feed it to the casework team if it's something that requires further investigation. So those no's were very much on personal experience, and a lot less this year in terms of just people just being overall negative around policing.
So, did you want to answer? Sorry, you want to answer?
You. Yeah. Thank you.
Are these microphones working, Chair?
I've not got one.
We're all going through the process, but I don't think they're working.
It's kind of a technical question really, related to the previous comments. And, is there any flexibility in the way the precept is applied in that, you know, could you, for example, choose to have a lower percentage of the precepts for band A properties and a higher one a bit further up, so the overall percentage, or are we hands tying with we apply that precept?
You'll remember that if you're on benefits, you don't pay anything at all. So
okay.
Those those who are the poorest in our community won't be paying anything. But there is currently no flexibility.
No. But local authorities can have a scheme locally. So, for example, Bradford, when they applied a 10% increase in their council tax last year, they then increased the passported to those who were struggling to pay the I can't remember the name of it, but they can ask for less from the poorest, and so that's what they did. So local authorities can do that on the whole of the precept, and that impacts on us too. But we don't have the power to do it unilaterally.
Thank you.
Remember, that is less funds for...
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillors, you just asked a question. If you haven't got you down for another question. Is that the question, or were you following on?
I believe we're just talking about the
consultation.
The consultation at the moment, but I've got questions further on in the report. Thank you.
So there are any others in the consultation? No? So,
shall I move on, Chair?
Yes.
Lovely. Okay, so going on to the financial reporting. So we are proposing a £15 increase to the policy element, the policing element of council tax for and D in 26-27, the maximum flexibility permitted for this year. The increase is required to sustain frontline policing and support neighbourhood investment. And just to remind the panel that government assumes all mayors and PCCs will go for the full uplift. It should be noted that the current level of police council tax for West Yorkshire remains the 4th lowest in England and Wales. The 26-27 Provisional Police Finance National Settlement provides a 4.5% cash increase across policing. However, West Yorkshire Police's uplift of 4.2% is below the national average due to the method for reallocating additional uplift grants. The 26-27 budget is balanced, but only through 2.4 million planned use of reserves, delivery of major savings through priority-based budgeting, and these, as you know, are planned actions that focus on efficiency savings and realigning investment into priority areas. And the opportunity to increase the precept by 15 rather than £14 reduces the deficit going forward as far as possible and gives the opportunity for less stringent budget savings than would otherwise be necessary. However, despite prudent financial planning and significant savings plans, the medium-term deficits remain 4.9 million, 27-28, 8.6 million, 28-29, and the budget assumes pay inflation of 3% for 26-27, 2% for the next 2 years. General reserves remain at 2.5% of net revenue budget, and this aligns with the internal target to support sound financial management. The government published the final police funding settlement on the 28th of January, and although that came in too late for this report, it doesn't materially change the overall financial picture or the need for £15 precept increase. For West Yorkshire, the main change is a potential 2.14 million for neighbourhood policing, contingent on deploying around 74 extra neighbourhood staff. We await clarity from government on how those targets are calculated and what the full budget implications will be. So as we discuss this, obviously I've got colleagues and Catherine from the police will be able to answer more technical questions. And Kate is here from the Combined Authority. So thank you, Chair. That's it for now.
Thank you, Tracy, again. I'm going to pick up on your point on the pay award predictions or projections and the risk associated with that. So, as you say, in section 4.1 of the main report, the budget assumes a 3% pay award this year, 2% in the next 2 subsequent years. But every 1% increase above this adds 5.6 million in unfunded pressures. So, could you give us an indication of what frontline services may be affected if the pay award does not match the rates you projected, or what other contingencies have been considered?
Thank you. I'll hand over to Catherine in the first instance around the pressures for the police.
Yep, thank you. So, whilst we've built in a 3% pay award for this year, as you rightly point out, for future years we've built in 2%. There's a really clear narrative from the Home Office that they expect that our pay increases will be aligned with funding increases, so we don't anticipate that we would get unfunded pay awards, but if we were to do that, of course, then we'd have temporary relief from that from the Revenue Pressures Reserve, and then we would just remodel it through the PBB process, which would then determine which services we have to reduce a little bit. But we are on the track of making significant savings, such that I would hope we'd be able to mitigate that, because we would have some quite advanced drawing of that.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to add, Kate? Because all organisations are facing this conundrum, aren't they? That we want people to be paid properly, but then it does put pressure on our budgets.
Absolutely, and you know, as Catherine, actually just to introduce myself probably first off, Kate Taylor, Director of Finance and Commercial Services and Statutory Finance Officer for the Combined Authority. In there, as Catherine said, we kind of come in there around that is in line with the assumptions that are in there. Clearly we do review those every year, reflecting on what has happened in the previous years as well, and what will have happened in pay settlements. For that, as Catherine's outlined as well for the police, there is the funding that comes through from the Home Office, which is slightly different to local authorities, for example, or combined authorities, where it has to be kind of swallowed through the existing Section 31 grants or funding that's come through.
Thank you.
Thank you for your answers. It's clearly a well thought out plan. So, kind of additional to this, we're also seeing nearly £12 million in new operational pressures, including significant software licensing increases. Again, do you have a contingency plan for productivity efficiencies built into the budget do not materialise at the scale required to offset these rising costs?
Thank you. I'll hand back to you, Catherine, particularly about the licences. We need this tech. And we are basically, our hands are tied, aren't they?
Yeah, the question is...
When you need the tech, but yes, what would be impacted?
Correct.
Yep, so we've built in those operational pressures into the budget. So if you look at the movement statement as one of the appendices of the report, Appendix D, it shows in detail the movement. So most of the unavoidable movement is around pay and smaller than usual inflationary pressures. We've fixed electricity for the next couple of years, which has been advantageous for this. The licensing increase for Microsoft is 458,000, and we do a 3-year renewal with Microsoft, and I anticipate that in 3 years' time we'll sit there with another significant figure for Microsoft, because they've just got such a strong hold, haven't they? So all these operational pressures that we've built in, most of them are unavoidable. I wouldn't necessarily describe them as operational. I would say the operational pressures that we've built in are those things that we've had more discretion around. So, for example, where we've built in the increase in supervision on the district investigation teams and the domestic abuse teams, where there's a significant amount of workload and pressure on PCs, and we're increasing the number of sergeants and inspectors in those areas. So yeah, we factored in all the operational pressures in terms of cost Separate to that is demand pressures, which we will continue to see, I'm sure, in our force management statement predicts that we will see those moving forward. So it's something we have to continually work on. And the priority-based budgeting programme that we've run stays fairly dynamic, so if there's a function who's facing really high demand, then they can put a demand change request in and we consider that and then realign the budget. So it is very much tied, the budget movements through PBB are very much tied to operational pressures and keeping dynamic, not just the decisions that were made a few years ago and then we'll work them through. It stays dynamic for operational pressures.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth saying that the National Police Service that was announced in the White Paper a few weeks ago will take on some of those national responsibilities for tech. ESN will be one of those things. We don't know the detail yet, so even though it's currently aligned in our budget and will be probably for the next 2 or 3 years, at some point there will be a decision to wholesale take some of that technical capability and the cost for it into the centre, which I think in some ways is good because then it's not something we have to control.
If I may just add as well, you'll remember here at the panel we were concerned about energy costs. I'm really pleased to see that they've come down, but also procurement. That's come in-house and there's savings there as well. So wherever possible, I know that the force will be looking for those savings because what we want is the money that we have put into frontline policing and into officers and into, you know, the public's interactions with the police.
Thank you for all that. And I do understand that. I suppose my challenge to you, Tracy, is that are you confident in the plan, that the plan will deliver these efficiency savings which are going to offset those increased costs? Have you got a high degree of confidence in that?
Well, just to my previous point, we've challenged West Yorkshire Police to find savings, and those savings have been coming through. So I am reassured, I am confident, but of course there's always more to do. And as I say, the priority for me is the service the public get. We are the voice of the public. So what's the public getting? It's really important that we make the case that money isn't wasted at the centre. And to Alison's point, we'll know more as the detail rolls out. But there is the anticipation that consolidation of some of the expected resources across forces are going to save forces money. What we want to do is not lose that money. We want to keep that within our communities as well. So we're making that case as well, that these changes don't mean that we have less control, less autonomy, less commissioning capabilities, for example. Okay.
Just in terms of the reassurance around the number that we have got around in this year's plan, specifically in there, as Catherine's described around the process, it is very dynamic. This is not just a number that sits in the plan. There is a series of actions and clear schemes that sit to deliver there. So the force have already gone through that process. It starts very early, kind of in the year of planning as well. So there is confidence that they have already got those schemes. As Catherine says, she monitors that very frequently during the year, which allows that kind of dynamism of schemes are not coming in to plug in other schemes that are there. So a very kind of early process. It's not a number without substance behind it that is sitting in front of you, and ongoing monitoring as well will help.
But by us as well as the force.
Yeah, I think that's the reassurance the panel are looking for. It's not just a line on the spreadsheet. You know, there's actually some thought, some challenge from you, and some monitoring along
and then audit. There's a massive role for audit to, you know, to triangulate some of those assumptions and so there's a whole range of different factors that come into play.
Sorry, Catherine.
Yeah, so just specifically on delivery of the savings, there's a PBB delivery board I chair and it meets every month, and then we report quarterly to the Chief Officer team for them to scrutinise, and then we report to the Mayor quarterly and she scrutinises delivery of that as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to go on to the reserve situation, partially answered the question in some respects, but you're right, we're within the guidelines. We're at the bottom end of it, 2.5%. We've had quite a discussion about this in your absence. But I think we would like, I certainly would like, some more reassurance about what mitigating measures you have in place for the law of unintended consequences, shall we say. We live in a very volatile, changing country and world, and there's very many ifs, buts and maybes in here. I understand that, it's not a criticism. That has to be a bit of the way it is. However, if any of those are not wildly off track, or even modestly off track, you have a problem. What mitigating measures are you putting in place on top of the ones you've just mentioned in other respects? I think we'd like some reassurance on that.
Okie doke. Well, I'll hand over to Catherine, but as you know, that there is an expected threshold for reserves for these instances, but there will always be things, you're absolutely right, there are things that will come at us that we hadn't anticipated. COVID, for example, the pressures on all public services during that period, but I feel reassured that the percentage of reserves is the right amount. What we don't want to be doing is sitting on tens of millions of pounds and then cutting back services that serve the public. So Catherine, do you want to speak to the reserves?
Yeah, thanks. I think we're fairly uniquely placed in that we've got the big priority budgeting programme that we've been running for about 3 years. So as soon as we identify a gap, we've already got a plan for how that would mitigate it, albeit we don't want it. But it's already planned. It's not just we'll see what happens when we get there. It's all nicely planned in. In terms of reserves, as soon as we identify an underspend, so for example this year we've delivered some of the PBB savings quicker, therefore we've got some staffing savings, so we take those in year, we put them into the revenue pressures reserve so that we can use it for future balancing. Actually, the National Police Chiefs Council did a survey of all forces and they modelled where they sit in terms of their budget gaps and reserves, and we sit in the nice quadrant that is low risk, high resilience, green category, so we're one of the best placed forces following all this work that we've done.
I think it's worth the panel understanding that low risk, high resilience, that is exactly where we want to be.
Just to come back very, very briefly on that, given the context of the medium-term financial plan and that you're already looking at a deficit this year and next year, you understand now why we would be very concerned if anything knocked us off course, we are in trouble.
Of course. Kate, you wanted to come in?
Thank you. So obviously reserves is, and it is part of Section 25 statement that you need to make as a statutory finance officer. So two things we look around for resilience and reserves, which are present in here. One is the general fund reserve. So we've got a general fund reserve, which is to be around 10.8 million at the end of 26-27. There is also, as we're talking around, the revenue pressures reserve. So there are two pots ultimately that we have to call on from a resilience point of view. We are using the revenue pressures reserve around the budget support at the moment. The general reserve exists for those kind of in-year, ultimately that's the purpose of the general reserve, is things that may happen in the year, for example like COVID, that might come in and might give us little bumps in the road to do there. So
yeah, and we need to understand that we are adding to the general pressures reserve, so as soon as there's an efficiency made in year, that tops up. So it's not a pot that's going down and is never replenished. It is replenished, and it has been significantly replenished over the last 3 years. We've been agreeing pots into that fund over the last 3 years, that additionality is possible because of the priority-based budgeting processes that are so well established now, set up in 2022. They identified a variety of ways that efficiencies could be made, and now they're delivering, and they're delivering every year for the rest of this 3-year PB priority-based medium-term financial forecast. So we know what efficiencies are going to be made because it's already planned in through the PBB process, which we reported to you back in November, which is reported to us quarterly, and of course we're happy in November again when we do the financial update to give you another update on where we are with the PBB. And that's without, possibly additional monies coming in through government from time to time, which it does. Obviously, we know we've got more money to come through the neighbourhood policing guarantee, which is not budgeted for either. But the budget for 26-27, which you're voting on today, is thoroughly worked out. There's lots and lots of detail sitting behind it, which has been investigated and scrutinised. to the nth degree by Kate and her team. We have been involved in those conversations, we've been holding the force to account. So I have absolute assurance that the 26-27 budget is pretty much nailed on, and if there should be a bit of overspend on something, you know, it won't be fuel because we've fixed it, but staffing, for example, there are mitigations in the budget to allow us that flexibility for it not to have a massive impact. And even though we've got a 4.8 million and an 8.5 million deficit going forward, that's today. By the time we come to panel, we will be at a balanced budget because the work to reduce those deficits is ongoing.
Yeah, honestly, just answer my question I was going to ask you. Yeah, you are our assurance, can you give it 26-27 budget, but you already answered it. So a lot can happen in a day, so we just have to take things there at a time. Yeah. So, are there any questions? Oops.
I'll defer.
Councillor Keys.
Councillor Carter's already covered a lot of what I was going to ask, but my question about reserves, still, I'd like further reassurance about how we are doing on reserves compared to our comparators, and the reserve strategy of between 2.5% and 3.5% of net revenue, whether that is similar to the strategies in other police forces. In other words, is our resilience planning as good as it is elsewhere?
Thank you. I think Catherine did touch on that in her previous answer, but it might be worth, Catherine, if you just, you know, we are in a good place in the league tables in comparison to others, but maybe pull out a couple of forces that are equivalent in size, just to do some comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. So Greater Manchester Police, West Mids Police, they all have reserve strategies to hold no less than 2.5% of their net revenue budget. The Metropolitan Police Sobe aims to hold just 2% of theirs because it's just such a vast amount. And broadly, everyone is somewhere between 2.5 and 3%. And I don't think you could argue to hold more than that in general reserves and not be using it for operational delivery.
Thank you.
I think if I may say, Councillor, you would have something to say if we were saying, oh, we're sat on 20 million, and yet we're making cuts in frontline services, so it's a balancing act.
Thank you. If I may, I'd just like to touch on the funding for neighbourhood policing. And if we indulge me, have we not got that?
Yeah, you've got it on the 28th of January. But yeah, we'll let you ask the question.
Please ask your question because it's a big.
If you indulge me for a moment,
Yeah,
I'd just like there is very strong feeling in the panel about the role of PCSOs and what they do to our communities. Just in terms of the unrivaled visibility and raising public confidence. Because unlike the police, or PCs, who are frequently pulled away for emergency response and other duties, PCSOs are ring-fenced for our communities. They give us the yellow jacket effect, giving us a presence on our streets. They give us improved accessibility because they're not responding to grave or emergency calls. They have time to stop and talk, to engage with our communities. And that bridges the gap between the public and the police, making the service feel human rather than reactive. They've got deep-rooted community links. I think PCSOs, I think we all agree, are the social glue of police. They often remain in the same neighbourhood for years, whereas PCs may rotate through different departments and be promoted into different roles. They build trust, they problem solve. They are the intelligence engine of the police to a large extent. A force is only as good as its information. PCSOs are, in my humble opinion, one of the most prolific sources of soft intelligence that leads to hard results. They give us low-level insights through casual conversations, and PCSOs gather information about drug dealing, non-recent abuse, gang tensions, residents that might be too small to report by 111 or 999. They really are that intelligence engine. And finally, they give us a high-quality police recruitment pipeline. The PCSOs serve in a role as a breeding ground for future police constables. They've got vetted experience, so PCSOs entering the PC workforce already understand the legal framework, the radio etiquette and many community dynamics. And, most importantly, diversity of thought. The PCSO role often attracts a more diverse demographic of applicants in terms of age and background than traditional PC routes, helping, of course, better reactive service communities. And retention, candidates who serve as PCSOs will have a realistic job preview, often leading to high retention rates once they become sworn officers. So, thank you for indulging me in that. I shall move on to the question. So, taken together in sections 3.2 and 9.2 of the main report, states that savings are being delayed because of officer-related reductions can only happen by moving warranted officers into grey roles, staff positions, to avoid reaching the Home Office officer cap. Does the Mayor agree, and Deputy Mayor, that the using warranted officers with higher training, pension costs and power of arrest perform non-arrest roles while simultaneously allowing cheaper, special or better value, specialised PCSO numbers to drop by 20 posts is an inefficient use of public funds? And given that the budget shows an uplift in overtime of £1.7 million and a decrease in PCSOs of £2.7 million, and we've just heard that the £2.14 million for neighbourhood uplift has just been secured, why is that not immediately been ring-fenced to help the planned attrition of PCSOs and maintain our current strength of 431?
Thank you for that contribution. That love letter to PCSOs, I also think could be applied to specials. Because people, it's absolute public service. And you'll remember from the many times that we've been here at panel that we have pushed West Yorkshire Police to keep PCSOs and to recruit more PCSOs. In fact, I've used different funding pots to recruit PCSOs on the bus network. They are really crucial to society, which is why it's pleasing on two accounts. One, we've had lower attrition, so we thought we'd have more people retire or leave, and we've had less. But also, government have heard your love letter, and they have lifted the restrictions on PCSOs and responsibilities. But would you like to speak to that, John?
Yeah, it's a really articulate description of the benefits of PCSOs. I wholeheartedly agree with it. And that's why West Yorkshire Police has held on to PCSO numbers longer than any other force in the country. And even if we go to the latest data, which was last September, the Metropolitan Police at that point had 1,400, we had 462. West Midlands Police have already gone down to 304, Greater Manchester Police have already gone down to 296. Even those affluent, well-funded areas across the country like Thames Valley or South Wales or Hampshire have still got far less PCSOs than us. So I wholeheartedly agree with you about the benefit and operational delivery of PCSOs. That's why we've fought tooth and nail to keep them as long as we can. I've got no option than to reduce PCSOs going forward in terms of meeting that budget deficits. The latest lift of the officer cap is very welcome. That will allow us to reverse some of the decisions we've made around putting police officers into police staff roles. However, the restrictions around the neighbourhood funding appear to us at this stage, whilst they haven't been totally all finalised by the Home Office, they're very much aimed at moving those officers out of those what we call grey roles, police staff roles, and moving the officers into neighbourhood policing. And that's what we'll end up doing. So there will be an increase of officers into neighbourhood policing. But that's how the grant and the restrictions have been written. They're talking about overall numbers, and I would love to find a way of retaining PCSOs and not reducing them. I can't see it yet. I can't see a way going forward, so we will carry on with our plans to reduce them, which, yeah, is not what I want to do. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, in the same way that councils, when they didn't want to reduce PCSO numbers, but they didn't have the money to do it, and it's exactly the same place. The positive is we'll still have more, and we'll still be doing all of those fantastic roles that you said. And that's through outstanding financial planning by Catherine and the team in finance over the last few years to keep the numbers up. But as and when the day comes that something changes, I'd love to reinvest in them again. Sorry,
I think
just
it's
one point from Catherine.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate that the police cap has gone, And that only happened a couple of weeks ago. We have massively campaigned for the cap to go. The cap in neighbourhood policing hasn't gone because that's where the investment is now. So we've got a cap on the number of neighbourhood policing officers. But all the other requirements for the cap, you remember I told you we had about 1,200 new officers, and then we had the 143 from that the Met couldn't recruit, and then we have the 100 this year, which will retain because that's the MPT. But all the rest of it gets lifted, and that means all those grey roles that we had to have, police officers doing police staff roles, we can now lift some of that, and that means that we can recruit some more police staff roles, which will be very pleasantly received by staff, I can tell you now. But that's been because the Home Secretary has heard what we've said and has lifted that cap on the majority of the workforce. And we're going to continue to put pressure to reduce the cap across the board so that we can get some PCSOs back.
And certainly the good news story is that you will have police officers in community working with PCSOs to support them, because PCSOs go out and they don't know what they're going to face. So often you need that police support in the community as well. So it's a good news story regarding the lifting of the cap.
Yeah, could you just come in on the overtime?
Yeah.
So bank holidays is very expensive for police. So 1.3 million of that is because we've got an extra bank holiday next year, and then you see it go down the following year. So yeah, whilst I like bank holidays personally, I don't like them professionally.
And also PCSOs can be abstracted and are abstracted.
Yeah, but less frequently.
Well, you'd like to think so.
Can I just... Yeah. You just have a quick, very quick... I do welcome all that. And so, Tracy Harrison, I would love for you to project the strength of feeling in this room for the support for PCSO, back up the food chain, and some of the points highlighted in my love letter. And just please keep trying, because we do value it.
Yeah. But if I may say, that's why we're encouraging the panel to approve £15, because that is how we ensure that we can be as ambitious as we all want regarding PCSOs.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Touch on the comment, I think, that the Chief Constable just made about local authorities funding PCSOs, which they used to do. Are you in fact saying that if a local authority was able to identify some funding, that you would agree to increasing the number of PCSOs in that local authority by the number that the local authority was prepared to fund?
I think we'd consider it very carefully.
We look forward to you lobbying or finding the money.
Yeah.
Councillor Gordon is going to support you. He's already emailed me.
Okay, Councillor Carter. Is there more?
No, that was it.
Right, you're quiet. Trevor.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just a small point, really. Through the year, we've had a lot of talk about the recruitment of new officers around the year. But the reality is, by the time we've got to the end of the year, from the report, we ended up with a net increase in officers of 86 for the full year. And a net loss reported of PCSOs of 79. So in real terms, in terms of there is marginal change.
And that's why the cap for neighbourhood policing teams remains, because the Home Secretary and the Home Office don't want any reductions to affect neighbourhood policing, that frontline policing that you so beautifully described. And that's why the focus is all now on replenishing those lost PCSOs with officers, but hopefully, if we get the nod from the Home Office, be able to be a bit more reflexive about how we deploy those resources across staff, PCSOs and officers over the longer term. But yeah, I think we've been really upfront and said that in order to balance the books, the 3-year objective of reducing PCSOs by 78 over 3 years was the only way that the books could be balanced. And as the Mayor so rightly pointed out, every pound below the maximum cap means that that 78 could be higher, and or the number of staff being lost could be higher. Over to you.
Well, the reality is there's been little change in actual numbers there, despite approving £14 increase last year.
But the £14 increase last year was not about more PCSOs. We were really upfront about that. That was about maintaining where we were, and we pretty much have retained where we were with the extra 89 net, but obviously there's some more recruitment to happen because we've got some reporting back to the Home Office. It has to be 100 for us to get the full allocation of the grant. So we have maintained the position in 25/6 as we promised to do. It was never about growth last year. It was all about, we're in this terrible situation, we're going to lose PCSOs, we need to maintain a position of whatever number it was last year, and we've been able to do that, plus about 12. Because we've had the police officers, the 89 and we've lost 11.
Well, it says 86, I can only read what it says.
Well,
It says 86
we
in
said
the report.
89, so sorry.
86 in the report and further in the report 79 PCSOs over the year.
86 is the timing of the movement, so we built in 100 officers into the budget, but because we were over at the year end by about 34, then it's just little swings around the time when people come in.
But the point is not lost that we were very clear last year there was 100 constables going into neighbourhood policing. We were clear with the government never do that. So we're taking at least, we're up to 80 PCSOs out, so the net benefit isn't there. So
I think that's my point. I'm not challenging, I'm saying
and we told you that.
We're in a difficult position, so I suppose my question is going forward, how do you see that changing as part of this funding that you're asking for?
But it doesn't go higher, does it? The loss doesn't...
The net position of officers, and including PCSO, you're expecting to be able to tell us this time next year that it's an increase then?
Well, there will be an increase.
Net increase?
Well, it might be a -4 because we're looking to lose 78 and we're looking to gain 74 from the Home Office that they've told us about. Now, we don't know the detail of that. Maybe we can get 1 or 2 more. I don't know. But we're going to get some growth of 74, but we're going to lose the 78 because that's the medium-term financial forecast. And what we've said to the public in asking them their opinion about the £15 is, this is about stay still. This is about maintaining where we are and not losing. We've not lied. We've not lied to you. We've not lied to the public.
No, I'm just asking for clarification. So we're talking about another year of staying still, basically.
Yeah, and the slight difference...
But we don't quite know everything in this picture.
Yeah. And the slight difference is that police officers are replacing PCSOs. Police officers have more powers. Police officers have the ability to work the 3 shifts patterns, which PCSOs don't. So in terms of operability,
experience,
you'll get more, but the public would rather have all of it. But they'd have to pay for that, and obviously the cap is the cap, and so even if they wanted to pay more, they can't.
My reason for asking was just the clarification as we go through the year to review the strategy you're telling us you're aiming to achieve, to make sure we all understand that it's with the same workforce, or maybe some slight.
And it stands still. We're not promising more. We're just saying this £15 will keep us pretty much where we are. We'll get 74 more, but we're going to lose 78.
And you'll remember back in 2021 when we promised we would work with the police to get more, we delivered more. But, we just taking a view of the landscape in front of us and the challenges that the police face, we will always be straight with plan.
I suppose if you boil it down to the real nitty-gritty in that Appendix D, that's the movement statement, it shows that we've got 37.2 million unavoidable cost increases around pay, inflation, etc. Plus a little bit of operational pressures that takes us to 40 million, and the extra government grant is 13. So we'll get 2.1 on top of that as the extra announcement that we got on the mid-January. But that's required us to make 12 million of savings, 1 million extra investment income, and then the rest is where we've seen those slight decreases.
I think that boils it right down, doesn't it, to the number feature.
Yeah.
The inflation, etc., is just eating into our opportunity to do more.
Yeah, and it's a national problem, and that's why the government is looking at that National Police Service, looking at potentially merging forces and reinvesting those savings back into policing, because something quite, a big, massive has to happen to address what is obviously a cliff edge for us as a society, not just in West Yorkshire, and that's what they're doing through the NPS and the merger conversations, which I support. John?
So I think we've all got to the place where this request is around maintenance of the overall service delivery. We'll talk about numbers in a second about the overall service delivery, no more, no less. We're fighting to keep our head above water. The future deficits are far better. They're in a better place than where they've been in the past. That's good. In terms of numbers, I predict over the course of this year, once we work through the neighbourhood grant, there will be more people within neighbourhood policing. Highly likely this stage to be police officers, but there'll be more people in it. I just want to note of caution and transparency and openness around, because I know the panel are very astute and have got great detail and memory and will be holding me and others to account next year. When we talk about net increases, let's be frank, when there's a talk about an officer cap being restricted, that's given the opportunity to not recruit police officers and use the money for other things, and that's usually plugging gaps. So right now there's 80 police officers in what really should be police staff roles. Over the course of this year we might remove some of those. So the people will come out, but we use the money to recruit the police staff who should be there. That doesn't mean there's going to be 80 more cops. There's actually going to be 80 less on the books. The people will move. So that's why I'm talking about officer caps, and be careful about the net. The overall number of people in West Yorkshire will be the same, or thereabouts, but it's the balance and it's the differential that makes efficiencies, productivities and savings.
Better value for the public.
So I agree with you. I don't want police officers in detention officer roles, but it doesn't mean there's going to necessarily translate to more cops on the streets generally.
Thank you. I just want to, if I can, pick up on a couple of areas in the budget which I think may be a little bit neglected. And the first one is the Community Safety Fund. So in section 3.3 it says that the Community Safety Fund is included in the budget but currently under review. With the 3-month extension to current arrangement, and I know we spoke about this before. In reality, the Community Safety Fund, which has been frozen at 5.12 million since 2013-14, which represents a massive cut in real terms. Given that local schemes are already closing due to lack of funding, have you not tried to secure this funding and allocate even a modest inflationary increase from the 25.4 million in new resources available this year?
Thank you for raising that. We've had a number of conversations around this, so Alison, if you'd like to take that.
So, as you know, this 5.12 million goes directly to local authorities and the police. We've got contracts and performance frameworks around that money, about how we expect it to be spent. This year, we told local authorities that we would give them their first 3 months guaranteed because we didn't know how much money we were going to get. We didn't have the final figures. We've now been given assurance that the amount that we have, we can give them the full 12 months. But what we've said is we have priorities within West Yorkshire Combined Authority, namely CARA, which is the lower to medium level harm domestic abuse perpetrator scheme, which costs about £300,000, which is not funded, and we've been funding it in our bits of underspends from here and there, plus the Women's Safety Unit, which is about £227,000, which is really beginning to now make some big impact on outcomes, which the Mayor will touch on in a few months' time. And we really need to maintain the momentum around both CARA and the Women's Safety Unit. Coincidentally, CARA was evaluated nationally, so CARA is funded by the Home Office in quite a lot of field forces, but not in West Yorkshire. We missed out, I don't know why, we put a really good bid together, we are the only CARA that's been able to be evaluated because West Yorkshire Police collect the data at the beginning, the middle and the end, which is what the evaluators this university needed. None of the other forces that are funded were able to do that, and we can show that 71% of the around 600 people a year that go into that scheme do not reoffend. So if you want to deliver the 50% reduction in BOG, things like CARA are absolutely critical. So we have been really upfront with local authorities and said that if we do not get the sort of national funding now being announced as a result of the BOG strategy being announced in December, We're going to, some of that's perpetrate programmes, some of that is innovation. So we're going to think of both these things, and if we get them from the Home Office, great, we can continue to fund our local authority partners and policing in the same way. If we can't get that funding, we're going to take some of the money that we have been giving passporting for years and years and years, Mark before us, and use that money to continue the innovation that we've been undertaking under the Mayor's leadership since 2021. So we don't want to do that. But your question is, couldn't you add more money? Well, if we could have added more money, we would have added more money. But obviously, every penny we take from another budget means that that other budget is further stretched. What we decided this year was that actually all local authorities in West Yorkshire had had a better settlement than they'd ever had before, and that they were in a bit more of a resilient position to be able to have conversations with us about a cut in this funding. Fortunately, we don't have to have it this year, but if we don't get the funding from the National Board Pot, we're going to be giving notice in December. We've been really upfront and told them this. We're going to give them notice in December for the last 3 months, and we'll then give them a lower amount, if any amount, come 1st of April 2027, because ultimately the Mayor has to have flexibility around some of the innovation that she is trying to fund on behalf of policing, on behalf of people of West Yorkshire.
And if I could just add, that's a really good analysis of the situation. You as a panel will be challenging me if I was just funding things that out of routine and habit that weren't working. And as an organisation, we are innovation first. That's why we've got the Women's Safety Unit. We are seen by government as an organisation that is prepared to try things, and then if they don't work, we move on. This is really important for the people of West Yorkshire, that we just don't sit in a complacent, friendly manner with our colleagues and say, well, you've always had it, so we'll continue funding it. We've got to make every pound work.
Thank you. I think that's clear. Obviously, it is what it is, and we want every pound to go to the most effective place that it can go. And again, I would just encourage you to lobby up the food chain and see what we can do to continue to provide support, which I do think is effective, but I understand that priorities are priorities. If I could just move on to another point, which is around victim attrition. So we've heard in this panel many times that justice delayed is justice denied. And on page 10 of Criminal Justice, the report highlights that the requirement for trial-ready files is causing significant victim attrition. So beyond high-level investigative reviews, what specific portion, if any, of the precept is going to be invested to speed up charge decisions so victims do not walk away from the justice system?
I just agree with you that it's absolutely tragic that victims feel that the process is so slow, or for a multitude of reasons, walk away. But I do know that getting files ready for trial has been an area of innovation as well, that we've tried to do that more swiftly, and we've got better outcomes. Do you want to just speak to that?
So you remember we had a presentation from Simon looking at all the work we've been doing across the local criminal justice board, lots and lots of the great progress that we made as a result of the previous ACC, who's now retired unfortunately, although the replacement's great too, and we have massively turned the corner in terms of some of the outcomes that you described. So average investigation times for rape and sexual offences have reduced from 387 days to 228 days here in West Yorkshire. We're one of the top performing forces in the country for average investigation times. In the first 18 months of the Women's Safety Unit being established, 216 suspects have been charged and 335 cases referred to CPS, making West Yorkshire Police a national leader with a proportion of those which are charged and referred, but we're only second to the Met. So we have been able to massively improve the number of attrition cases. So nationally, cases that fall because the victim withdraws consent, doesn't want to be involved. is something like 40%. In West Yorkshire pre-charge it's 20%. So we're significantly better than our most similar forces. Post-charge, we're a little bit higher than our most similar force, but something like, I think we're at 31%, and I think the national is something like 20%. So we're still performing considerably better, because we're 20% better at the first stage and only 11% worse at the second. So we're considerably better than our most similar partners in that regard because of the work that we're doing together. The precept, to answer your question, will not be funding this work per se. Obviously, it's part and parcel of the whole, and if the whole's working, then the capacity for the police to do their job properly and effectively. Bearing in mind, this is not just about policing, this is about all the partners doing their job properly. Then obviously, the whole will work more efficiently and effectively. The core police grant will fund that bit of policing that is involved in the work that you've just described. But if we don't have the bits that we can support filled and doing the best they can, then obviously that will impact on policing and the performance of policing as well.
And just back to innovation, where the opportunity is to get those cases ready more swiftly. I know that we question West Yorkshire Police all the time about use of AI and how we can get those innovations.
I think we've got an action plan. So we've just met, we had another away day at the end of last year. We've got another action plan for the next 2 years, use of AI, innovation. We've got a whole range of things that we're going to be doing to improve these outcomes even more. And I know Simon will be delighted to give you another little presentation. I think Kate's got some things to say.
Yeah. So a precept, obviously, which is the focus of here today, goes straight over to West Yorkshire Police and funds there. We also have a combined authority budget, which was approved in January by the combined authority. We have £17.2 million of money in 26-27 of combined authority money going to police and crime activities as well. So that is those complementary activities are sitting.
Yeah, and that's the VRP, our commissioning, all the rest of that. Yeah. Thank you, Kate.
The point to that comment, to link to the precept, is there's beyond the mayor, and it's the CPS, the DPP, and the national processes. There's been restrictions put on us, which I wholly disagree with, that the police are not allowed to charge these people when they've been arrested. I've spoken to you about it before. If we were, there would be less victim attrition, there'd be greater outcomes for victims, and the police would be more efficient, and will spend less time building these files, and heaven forbid, may have more time to go out and patrol and level policing team members. So it's a restriction being put on us that is impacting on us, but most important, it's impacting on victims. Mayor and Deputy Mayor are advocating on behalf of policing nationally, but it's not moving. I return to the fact that the people who need early charge the very most, those people subject to domestic abuse or hate crime, there is a specific restriction saying they can't be charged. If there's no domestic abuse and no hate crime, we can charge them. It's completely the wrong way around. So the link to the budget, so we could be more efficient, get greater outcomes for victims, we could use our time more wisely. But others say that apply legislation to stop us doing it when we used to do it day in, day out. There you go, my apologies, Jane, you can tell I'm frustrated with it.
Thank you. I think I'll come to close up this session because we need to look at the end. So, thank you, Tracy, if you just
Yes.
Yeah, just leave it. Okay, could I just remind members that we're still live stream, so we've got around 10 minutes to deliberate and yeah.
concerned about what we just heard about the Community Safety Fund. And I'm looking for, and I hope that Becky can help us on this, I'm looking for what are the numbers for Cara and the Women's Safety Unit that they think they might not get. Clearly that's the grant funding that they've mentioned. Those other streams are clearly relating to those two things, the Cara and the Women's Safety Unit.
Yeah.
And does that amount to that Community Safety Fund disappearing entirely? I don't know what the numbers are relating to those, and I just wondered whether Becky has access to those numbers, what's required to fund Cara and the Women's Safety Unit.
I mean, it's not within it's not within this year's budget, so it's within decisions that would have to make for next year's budget. One of the requirements I've put down as a potential precept, whatever we call them, is to understand the implications from April 2027, because I think elected members will need to know the impact upon their community safety teams within the local authority areas, and what elements of that grant funding, which if we go back to 2012, 2013, included at the time things like DIP funding, youth justice service funding, as well as the community safety teams money, and to understand what those implications are, to ensure that there's provision being made within local authorities to attempt to address that balance. I don't think within our decision making around this precept decision we can do anything about that, because it's a proviso, isn't it? It's as if. But I definitely think that needs to be one of our conditions, is that we're given the information to understand what it is they need, what it is the community safety fund costs, what the community safety fund costs includes, and then what the community safety fund is spent on within each of the 5 local authority areas, to understand what the implications are, to be able to try to influence the decisions that they're making moving forward. But it's not this precept, it's next year's.
So we just have to put that in place for them to focus on next year. And
well, think through the year, because I mean, Alison said she will make that decision in December. So I think we need to make sure that we have that understanding. I was just looking at dates and meetings to try and work out when we could get that, because I think it really is important, because it's a lot of what local authorities see as their community safety activity.
Yeah.
I think that's particularly important. Joe's right, it's not in this year's budget, but it's been raised in these budget discussions, and it's flagged up something extremely concerning. And the position, if we don't flag it up now, and get something almost written in blood that we're going to be properly briefed, we're going to have an input, we'll find ourselves in the last 6 months of the existence of this body, and heaven knows what will have been done, and we've no idea what scrutiny arrangements are being going to be for putting in after 2028. So we're going to walk out of here having not done our jobs, because community safety is very important. It's important to our communities and it's important to us. I would suggest to you it's not as important to a government of any political colour. They're taking more strategic decisions and ignoring what's going on the ground, but I don't think we can afford to.
Yeah, I just think we have to keep ahead with them and this.
We have to keep the feet to the fire. Is what we have to do.
Yeah.
And we have to reflect on the fact that that money was drawn into PCC funding in 2012-2013 to bolster PCC's funding, when previously it had all been given directly to local authorities, to drug intervention and to youth justice services. So by taking it out, putting it through PCCs, the decision making's gone away, and we're now looking at a real life potential for that money's being lost. If we go back, if we think about the original decisions around PCCs, lots of the PCCs didn't continue to give that funding to local authority areas. It was withdrawn in certain areas of the country immediately. So we have had a lot of benefit from having that in West Yorkshire. However, it's also driven partnership activity, partnership work, partnership responses, and commitment. So whilst it's not a decision for this precept, I think it's something that we need to make sure we've got high on our agenda.
Yeah.
So if I could just, can I speak, Chair? Sorry, I did have my hand up.
Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm quite concerned about the loss of the CSP funding, because I used to chair the CSP. But once again, we're finding that women's safety units, the CARA, are all under threat. I mean, we've seen this week here in Wakefield the demise of the Well Women's Centre and those essential services that are delivered to victims at a crucial time. I know the Women's Safety Unit has got some really good figures and some really good results, and I would really, really hate to see any funding being taken from crucial services such as these. So I find myself agreeing that this should be on our agenda going forward for the whole of the next year, to ensure that we have our say and any impact or input that we can have to actually ensure that these crucial services, including the CSP and the safety funding, you know, if we can help support, retain that funding, then I think we should.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah. Councillor Ross.
I just wanted to ask, do you know what the money for the Tracy's project, Violence Against Women and Girls, do you know if that will replace any of this? Because I don't know what that...
We are not sure, but I'm sure when we take it, not next meetings, to them in future, we will know.
I think she's talking about funding that as a discrete project, which doesn't necessarily directly replace any of the services which she's currently funding to local authorities. She thinks it's a better use of the pound than sending it to the local authorities.
I think when we take this to the table, we'll have a better insight of what they really intended to do, how far they can go. But we are quite right, we need to fight to keep this service going. But we just want to know more about it. This is just like something just blown to us, we don't know anything. So we just take it to maybe meeting after the financial year. But we've got Trevor first. Sorry, we have Trevor first. Right.
I think we probably need to look at something similar to the conditions we had last year. In that clearly the members discussed an issue around PCSOs. We had a concern around the priority-based budgeting, which we asked a question today. They said, yes, it's all in hand, it's on track, we're behind it. And again, made a good point. What if you have some problem? What if you have some problem or issues? So I think we want to get that as a condition. Yeah. But it's more about the delivery of it this time. Delivery of the priority-based budgeting. The reserves position, I think colleagues raised it a couple of times, and I absolutely think we should keep on top of that as a condition. Yeah. And the other point was about the precept consultation. He said it had been early last year, but Oliver made a very good point about the diversity of it and the range of it, and something around that, I think.
And about showing comparative figures to previous years, so that we've got that understanding of the trajectory in terms of...
Yeah, I understand domestic abuse and the need for CARA and other things for Well Women's Centre for women. But what have we got in place for men that's fleeing domestic abuse? I've not seen it mentioned anywhere in this information about men that's fleeing domestic abuse and what we've got in place for them. And I'd like to know what there is. Because it's under the counter, men don't come forward.
Men don't speak out, do they?
No, they don't. And then there's no support for them.
Domestic abuse should be for everybody. So,
can I just add to that, because I think in the strategy that was published in December, there is a 56-point action plan, and it does include violence against men. So the National Violence Against Women and Girls strategy does actually have a section, I've read it, around what we can and should be doing to support men. But it does go out, I agree.
It's more needs to be done, but I can assure you I don't think they'll turn away a man that's been abused. There will be a strategy there, but it needs to highlight more as the same margin as women and girls. That's what it needs, but it will.
First-hand advice can say that there's nothing there.
Would that be, because we're talking about commitments here?
Commitments.
I would like to know that what there is in place for men.
I don't think that's a commitment to the precinct. I think that's more of a outside of the meeting. We could take a paper at a later meeting.
Yeah, because she's going to come on in item 7 again, so I think that would be the next question. Is it Councillor Carter?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things I think we're all agreed on that should go in the list of, on top of what we've just said about community safety fund. PCSOs, we need to be firmer in our request. And it's perfectly obvious to me that as long as this cap remains from central government and the Home Office, those figures are going to go on going down and probably go down even more. And we need some reassurance if we're going to vote for this. And I'm thinking about it now because of what the Chief Constable said, not what the Mayor said or the Deputy Mayor said, but what the Chief Constable said. We need something hard and fast in there.
Yeah.
Secondly, we do want to be kept abreast of the reserves position, because there are a number of interesting points there. We don't want to be left in the dark and find they're in trouble, and I suspect we will be. So that was 2. I'm trying to think what the third one was I was thinking about. So PCSOs and reserves. Yes, the timing of the... Some sympathy, to be fair, because if the government don't give them the funding details till... And this is typical of governments. You tell a local government, last possible minute, when Parliament's gone on holiday, so no, there can't be any debate, and everything's done, and everyone's on holiday, happy Christmas. Well, so they have a problem. However, it can't be beyond the wit of man to time this better, and to start virtually in Christmas week is a nonsense. However, I asked myself the question, well, if we put it back a week, so the end of New Year week, then we're giving such a truncated period, can they extend the period of consultation into February? Can it be done? No, and I take your word for it. Well, no, with the City Council, same thing. So
I think it might be better to focus on the issue, I think, Oliver and you raised about diversity.
Yes,
increasing representation.
The representation.
Yes.
We'd like to see it
I
across all areas.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And that gives them a task. If you're innovative and all this stuff, okay.
But it's never going to get dramatically better. It's not. I mean, there are statistics.
The optimistic Councillor Kerr.
I am optimistic. I think it's to 1%.
I really disagree about that it couldn't get better. Just looking at what they presented with us, one way they could improve it is by dropping the online consultation and only doing in person, because the in-person consultation was diverse. It reflected properly the makeup of the public of West Yorkshire.
That's the wrong way around. You're getting rid of the issue. The issue is, if the online representation isn't right, fix it. Solve it. Come up with an innovative way.
A way to make the online survey more representative. Okay.
That's the challenge.
It's the timing, really. It's the timing, and it's not the government.
Taking on the challenge that was raised here, you know, we could make it better. We as individual councillors, we could make that consultation exercise a lot better than it currently is. I mean, half the people I represent don't go online. not go online. They've not engaged at all in anything within the consultation. Their voice isn't heard, and we can make that voice heard. We can, through your coffee mornings, through whatever anybody else does, we can do that.
And the statistic
And we
I
should.
like is over 70s. How many over 70s respond?
Well, this is where
Well,
this
yes,
is
of
where
course,
we
but-
come into.
But they're not online, they probably aren't engaged face to face, so you've got another code.
But this is where you can arrange a coffee morning, Councillor Carter, and activities in, you know, where they come to you. So this is where we work together.
We're probably getting told to
collectively.
get stuck, but
I
we
actually
should do it
know lots
anyway.
of over 70s that are
Right, so I'll
online.
take
I don't
one
think
more.
that's a fair
Councillor
criticism of over 70s. I know loads
To
that
finish
are
up
online.
with Councillor Kingston.
All right,
Well,
yeah.
not a criticism, it's just
Councillor Carter.
Just to tie up two things. I mean, maybe we could put in something about starting the pre-engagement earlier. So pre-engagement with partners. So that could be city councils, it can be us as members of the panel. So maybe something about starting the pre-engagement earlier. And also the deputy mayor referred to national conversations that she's having around lifting the cap regarding PCSOs. So I think acknowledging what she said about those national conversations and maybe having a commitment there to keep doing that work.
Go and do the
PCS. So did you want to say something quick, Councillor Smith? Quick.
It was just that point, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I will, very quickly, very quickly. I think we should get some sort of commitment, if necessary for an in-camera meeting, where we have a much deeper dive into the medium-term financial plan prior to next year's meeting of this sort, and if you like, enhance our meeting from December, so that we've a much better understanding and can question officers, rather than just getting the political interpretation of what's in the budget.
We would normally take that in November.
Because they now know what I'm doing.
Private. You did not come to the private meeting last one.
Sorry?
You did not come to the private meeting. And you didn't send your apologies either.
Can we have a recap, Chair, of where we
Right,
are
so
with the
we've run it.
recommendations? Can we have a recap of where we are with the recommendations?
So shall I just say what I think
Yes,
you guys have?
Yeah.
So firstly, to report back to panel in the coming year with regular information on Community Safety Fund budget and grant position, and work with local authorities to address the risk to funding for schemes. Does that sound? Yeah, we can work the exact wording. In terms of PCSOs, we're to continue to lobby central government to lift any caps that are causing issues of flexibility for the Chief Constable. And then do you want to add in really last year's, which is that the Mayor continues to work with West Yorkshire Police to retain and increase the numbers of PCSOs where funding allows. Then on the reserves, we're thinking the same wording as last year, which is to report back mid-year on the reserves position, providing assurances that these are kept at a sustainable level, and reduce the reliance on reserves going forward. And then fourth, the consultation, to look to increase the diversity in the online and in-person consultations and include comparisons year on year so we can track that improvement. And to work with...
if I may, it'll be maintained for the in-person because they were in line.
So increase with online and maintain for in-person. And then to work with panel members to start pre-engagement earlier than the consultation.
Panel members and partners, so including local authorities.
I don't think that issue for them should be passed out to panel members. It's not panel members' role, but I think it's them to take a wider perspective of partners generally. I think the point of it, isn't it? It's partners, not panel members.
We did that for partners.
Okay, so if everybody's happy with... Sorry.
Is it possible, I know it's not contingent on this precept, but is it possible to put something in about community safety fund as to ensure that we're kept abreast of and understand the implications of?
That's what she said.
Have you got it?
Sorry. So if everybody's happy with those, then we just need to do the vote. So if I'll just read out your name, and if you could say support, veto or abstain for the precept. So Trevor Blake.
Support.
Joe Sykes. Support. Councillor Russell.
Support.
Councillor Kingston.
Support.
Councillor Smith.
Support.
Councillor Taylor.
Support.
Councillor Carter.
Support with severe reservation.
It's jumped off the fence. Councillor Edwards.
Support.
And Councillor Scott.
Really get the third degree.
Councillor Cummings. Support.
Let earn the money.
Well,
So the press release will now say the unanimous support.
Sorry?
So the press release will now say the unanimous support.
Oh, I realise that. Chief Constable.
You say the outcome.
This is my
Is it the president?
I'm scared to death.
You don't say anything. You know about this. Okay, thank you, and thank you for waiting outside. I'm going to make it nice and short. It's 10 committee members, and all 10 committee members have voted in support of the precept. So
By holding no.
I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. But it does come with a few complaints, so Fiona will read those out to you.
So panel would like to ask for 4 commitments, the precept approval. Firstly, to report back to panel in the coming year with regular information on Community Safety Fund budgets and grant positions, and work with local authorities to address risks to funding for schemes. Secondly, in terms of PCSOs, panel would like you to continue to lobby the Home Office on flexibilities and lifting caps to enable more flexibility with for the Chief Constable over there, and that you work with West Yorkshire Police to retain and increase the numbers of PCSOs where funding allows this year. The third commitment is to report back mid-year on the reserves position, providing assurances that these are kept at a sustainable level and reduce the reliance on reserves going forward. And finally, on the consultation, to look to increase the diversity with the online respondents and maintain the diversity on the in-person consultations, and include comparisons year on year, so the panel can track that. And to work with PCP members to start pre-engagement earlier than the consultation officially starts.
Right, I think that's the word with partners.
Partners, members on partners.
Thank you. I think they're 4 excellent recommendations, and we will take those on board. And I really do value the support of the Police and Crime Panel. This is absolutely a team support for the safety of the people of West Yorkshire, and you've been rigorous. You know, you read the papers, you have intelligent questions to ask. You know, we can't do this alone. We are very grateful for what you do in your communities and to support the people of West Yorkshire. So thank you. Would you like to say anything else?
No.
You've said it all. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So should we continue to item 7, the mayor's?
Super, thank you. If I may, Chair, just speak to a number of items. One is the VOG strategy. You'll know that the government published their Violence Against Women and Girls strategy 18th of December as part of their mission to halve VOG in the next decade. 3 pillars: education and prevention, pursuing perpetrators, and support for victims and survivors. As you know, this aligns absolutely the themes from our own Safety of Women and Girls strategy, but our strategy recognising misogyny as a factor which drives violence against women and girls. As you'll know, we're ahead of the game on some of the recommendations, with a strong focus on existing programmes on education, early intervention and behaviour change for young people, and with a dedicated specialist officer team for rape and serious sexual offences in West Yorkshire Police already. And also pleased to see the Drive Perpetrator programme coming to Bradford, a project that aims to reduce the number of child and adult victims of domestic abuse by disrupting and changing perpetrator behaviour. And all really bold ambitions laid out in the government strategy, but I know that our partners in the sector delivering support services have raised concerns about the level of funding. For the ambition, you also need the resources, and we're working closely with the Ministry of Justice and the Home Office as the detailed funding opportunities come out to make sure that West Yorkshire is in the best position to get as much funding from that. Moving on to the Serious Violence Strategy co-production event, it was a really terrific event. Thank you to colleagues for making sure we had such a wide reach of participants. It's the 3rd Serious Violence co-production event, 21st of January in Huddersfield, held jointly with our community leaders celebration, and it recognised the outstanding achievements of our community leaders who've successfully completed the programme, whilst also giving attendees the opportunity to help shape the Serious Violence Strategy, which is one of my key mayoral pledges. Attendees included partners from policing, local authorities, health, education and the VCSE sector. It was a really terrific day, very upbeat. Those community leaders are so vital to give us that access to people's understanding of the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis. Moving on to the Police and Reform White Paper, we don't know absolutely everything about this, but on the 26th of January, the Police Reform White Paper was published by the Home Office. The White Paper indicates government wants to move towards a model consisting of a smaller number of larger forces, coupled with a greater focus on local policing areas. The government's also proposed a new National Police Service, which will free up forces to tackle everyday crime. And as I say, as more information comes out, we'll endeavour to keep the panel informed of these reforms and what that's going to mean for the residents of West Yorkshire. Where there is a mayor, who is the Police and Crime Commissioner, the model of the panel will be changed. So where there is no mayor, there is the ambition for panels a little bit like this. So once we know more, we'll give you the detail. Also, I just wanted, if I may, Chair, to take this moment responding to current issues, to respond to what I'm seeing in ahead of the elections coming up, where people are getting literature and postings on social media about West Yorkshire being lawless, and the fact that we are a broken country and a broken society. I just want to say that I don't see that in my day-to-day encounters with community groups and with councillors. I see a lot of hope and I see a lot of ambition to make West Yorkshire a better place to live. And if I may, I just wanted to highlight some of the incredible work that's going on, being made possible by the public's continued support for the police through the contribution to Precept. And also, we all know there's so much more to do, but we should also reflect when our efforts are being rewarded by better outcomes. And the fact that, especially around violence against women and girls and serious violence, the adult rape charge rate has increased to 10%, 3% percentage points higher than before the Women's Safety Unit was formed, and higher than the national average. Our innovation is having an impact. A significant rise in Clare's Law requests, up by 2,000 in 2 years, protecting people from the risk of domestic abuse. I was in A&E last night, and on the back of the toilet door was 2 posters for Clare's Law. And you think of those 2,000 queries, There will be some people who have history of domestic violence from previous partners. We will never know the women we have protected from the work that we do, but 2,000 is a number that we should be proud of. Obviously more to do. In 12 months to December, all knife crime in West Yorkshire was down by almost 16% where the victims were under 25 compared to the same period the previous year. Knife-enabled robberies in West Yorkshire down 18% in the 12 months to December 2025. And finally, work since Operation Gemlock began in 2019 has resulted in the seizure of more than 3,100 weapons, 14,000 arrests, with 256 arrests alone during December 2025 for violent crime offences. We are worried about the safety of our citizens, but where interventions are working, we should celebrate them, and we should not be fueling fear where people are afraid to leave their home to engage in community activities that would combat loneliness because they feel, because of stories told to them, that outside there on the streets it's too dangerous for them to take part. So I'm hoping councillors, and I know that you also share with me that the value for our hard work in turning the tide on violence and the perception of violence in our communities. So I just encourage you to continue telling that story. Whilst we have so much to do, we really are turning that tanker, hopefully, and we will continue to try and do the same. Obviously, who knows what can happen tomorrow, but we should reflect on the downward trend, particularly around knife crime. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you. Yeah, before you want to ask a question, or should I ask a question?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chair. I'm sorry, may I be excused? I've got another meeting to get to.
That's fine.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks for your support.
Well, I fully support what you're doing for women against violence and domestic abuse. I've got family members that suffered from violent domestic abuse. But what are we doing for men? And I've seen what you've got in here. Well, actually, I've got first-hand knowledge that this isn't happening.
So shall I answer that question? Because obviously I'm more involved in the operational detail. So we are doing much more with men and boys than we've ever done before, because we felt that when we first started in 2021, you know, if the house is on fire, we start with the burning house. But the house next door is also badly scorched, and we need to do the same work there, and that's what we've been doing particularly this term. So at the end of the Mayor's last term, we commissioned a report from Line Culture, who specialise in working with male victims of domestic abuse, and they gave us a report with lots of recommendations about how we needed to improve the way that we at WIPE, West Yorkshire Police, the public, other organisations work with men and boys who are victims of violence, domestic abuse, whatever it is, rape, serious sexual offending. We then have begun to roll out those recommendations. And when you look at the new policing time plan, we've got a much stronger focus on men and boys. So we commission ISVAs for men and for women. We make sure that everything that we do meets the needs of men as well as women and girls. We've just set up, about 4 or 5 months ago, a panel, a victim survivor panel for women and girls and for men and boys. So next Monday, I'm meeting the men and boys, and this will be the 4th meeting, listening to survivors of domestic abuse and other offending, as well as listening to the women on the Tuesday when I meet them. And then the feedback that they give to us feeds into the work that we're doing. But also, what we're trying to do is change the systems, because it's not just about policing. They tell us about the criminal justice system, specifically around family courts, and then we're working with them to try to influence the change that they say they need to see. So there's much more that we can do, but our language has changed around men and boys. Yes, we're engaging with men and boys as allies through our Just Don't campaign, through this bystander work that we're doing, encouraging men and boys to be part of the solution in keeping us as women safe, but we also recognise that if you are a young man, you are more likely to be subject to serious violence in the street than if you're a woman. So that data is very clear, and we've got a duty to make sure that everyone in West Yorkshire is safe, and we're doing much more than we ever did before, and we pledge to do more yet.
I understand, Alison, that what you've got written here, and I understand that you want to do your best. And this person that I'm talking about, we've actually met him, and but nothing has come back.
Can we take that offline and talk about that outside this meeting?
Well,
it needs to be casework in here.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about casework. I'm talking about all men. Not listened to.
Yeah. Alison and Tracy are doing brilliant work regarding community safety against women and girls and men. But you highlight a lot of women and girls. Maybe we need to see more highlight around men.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
We'll take that away. I mean, I think we are doing more than we've done in the past.
Yeah.
Than we've ever done. Yeah, we hear what you're saying, and
Yeah.
we'll definitely reflect on our comms to make sure that
we
we're
just
improving
need
that.
to say more and bring it more to the table. The spouses could see and the public.
We'll take that on board.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just following up from that, and I agree with Catherine, and it's good that you've got these panels and you're fronting up these panels, but how does that transpose to delivery of services? And I think that's probably what Catherine is talking about. And I'm sure there are some services that have come out of your consultations, but we don't know about them. And maybe if there is something coming out of those panels that we could know about or we could help with, then that would help us deliver that message.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you. We'll try and reflect those when we do our board update.
Yeah.
But mainly the things that it's impacting is our commissioning services. So GASP are delivering the men and boys work that we're doing. Obviously they're a Wakefield organisation, but we'll definitely make sure that we're doing that work. Sharon's coming because we're doing lots of work with men and boys, and she obviously wants to share some of that.
Yeah, I just wanted to just in respect of that point, just to say that we're in the early stages of working with GASP to have a conference, which is going to be hopefully at the end of May or at the start of early June. And because we're working with people that have got lived experience, they're going to inform the conference, and we've already talked about the different agencies and organisations that they want there. And we want to give them a platform for their voices to be heard around those services. And as Alison said, it's not just about policing, it's about all of those other services. So we're looking for some really key actions to come out of that conference, and it's the men themselves that have asked for that platform. So I think it's likely it's going to be in Wakefield District. It's either going to be Wakefield or perhaps Leeds. But we are working closely with them, and obviously we'll make sure that panel members are invited to that conference. But the aim will be to walk out there with a series of key recommendations that the men inform, that we can respond to, not just from policing, but we can put challenge to other organisations as well.
Sorry, is it gas?
Gas. G-A-S-P-E-D.
Okay, I'll take two more questions.
You gasped your last.
We'll do two more questions.
Thank you, Chair. Two relatively...
Two short ones.
Sorry, two relatively short ones. Relatively. Grooming gangs inquiry. It touches on what you just said, David, actually. Because the longer this is in bottom gear, and the longer it takes to actually get it up and running, the more people who want to exaggerate issues will have following them to do so. What is your latest from the government on the progress of the grooming inquiry gangs? Because it's long overdue, and of course the suspicion remains that because the government U-turned, there's no great effort to get it actually meeting. And the second thing is all members should be aware that in their areas in West Yorkshire there are vulnerable young people living in unregistered children's homes. And trying to get to the bottom of who actually is responsible for the well-being and checking of these young people is nigh impossible. Ofsted say Oh, well, they register their homes, and if they don't, they're not legal. The local authority in where the home is say it's not our responsibility. The responsibility for the welfare of the young people is from the children's services in the area from which they come. Meanwhile, these children seem to be, nobody checks on their well-being, and there they are. And they're in every single local authority in West Yorkshire. And I can circulate the numbers so you all know. Please. And you'll be horrified.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you, Councillor Carter. So two points there. One, Anne Longfield has now stepped up to the chair. We are waiting for government to identify regions for the inquiry. We have said openly, come to West Yorkshire. We want to help. We want to support the victims and survivors that we have met with members of Parliament, listen to their voices, listen to what they want from us, what they want from the terms of reference of this inquiry. So that's where we're at. I think government's time is squeezed. There's no doubt about it in all particular issues that come at government internationally and obviously nationally. Can sometimes get the headlines, but I've no doubt that work is underway because I know it is a priority, particularly for Jess Phillips, who has made it her life's work to resolve this. Just regarding children's homes, I agree in that children's homes have often been a feeding ground for those vile perpetrators who take vulnerable girls and boys and use them to serve their purposes. I know that their local authorities, and Leeds in particular, you'll know that I've got an innovative approach, that they're looking at how they can bring in out of the private sector that seem to have little regard for the well-being and welfare of these young people, and are motivated by money and profit for their shareholders. How do we ensure that it's a better model that serves those young people? Because every young person failed by that process. We have to pick up later in life. And my understanding, it costs £1 million per child over a year to see them through the process. So, we want to support those young people. Is there anything you want to mention on the inquiry particularly?
Yeah, so on both things. So on the inquiry, we have written to Hannah Longfield, repeated our offer of West Yorkshire. We know that other local authority leaders have also written and offered their constituent paths. We meet with a group of CSE survivors hosted by the Treat Rape Crisis that cover all 5 districts of West Yorkshire. And it's called the Leadership Group, and the women who are survivors have created a document that we are meeting next Monday or Tuesday, can't remember which one it is. And we're going to decide how to give that document to Anne Longfield. My understanding is that she starts formally in April. She's already started work, so that she's getting her panel, the rest of the people together that's going to do the investigations, and they're looking at which areas. So my understanding is that she starts formally in April, but she's already started work. We hope to meet Anne with our women survivors, but we are co-producing everything with our women, and whatever they tell us to do in the time frame they tell us to do it is what we're doing. So we're meeting them again next week, as I say, and then I'll be able to feedback once they've told me what they want. We've spoken many times about children's homes. I share your concern. West Yorkshire Police share your concern. We did write to our local authority children's services directors. They said they were talking about it on a national level and they'd come back to us. They've never come back to us. We understand that this is a major problem, not just for our local authorities, but nationally, and I welcome your scrutiny on this and the pressure that you're continuing to apply, and anything we can do to support that, you're going to ask.
Thank you. Trevor, did you want to ask a quick? No? So thank you. We bring this to us, and we move down to item 8, publish key decisions. Supposed to check the website of the mayor, very often. Agree action plan. Report was attached. Is everyone okay with that? Forward action plan, again that was attached. Is everyone's okay with that? Complaints? Joe, I don't think.
There's been no new recorded complaints.
Okay, that just leaves us with any other business. I just wanted to... Sarah just wanted to get rid of it.
Hi, I'm a member of the public. I've come here today. I only want 5 minutes of your time, if it's possible. I recently attended a police impact meeting, and I was directed by the chair to this board. I attended a council meeting, and I was directed to this board, so I'll have 2 questions, and I'll take 5 minutes of your time. My questions are very important.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't think that's appropriate for this panel.
I haven't discussed what I wanted to discuss yet. It's a question about the concept and you're discussing it.
No, this was just for the panel, sorry. Could you should put it in writing?
I've put it in writing. So I put it in writing here in July 2025. I sent you it in registered source
It's
twice.
not a public meeting, Chair.
It's a meeting in public.
It's a meeting of the panel.
It's a meeting in public, but not public.
It's not a public meeting.
Not a public meeting.
So I did put my questions here in July 2025. I sent it to you. Recorded post.
Yeah, I think you need to
and on both
close
pages.
the meeting and perhaps deal with the member of public separately.
So maybe we could put it in writing again and you will definitely have a response back. Or you should inform me earlier while you sat there that you would have asked.
I have asked.
Who did
when
you?
I attended.
Who did you ask?
I asked.
Sorry, I'm the chair. You should come through myself.
Unfortunately, I cannot ever get all of you in a room at the same time. No. So I'm here now. I'm only expecting 5 minutes of your time. You're expecting me to pay £15 in concept for a service that you're saying that you're going to provide. And all I'm asking for 5 minutes of your time. 5 minutes. Yeah? Has
Chair,
anyone not got 5
Can I
minutes?
suggest that you close this meeting?
So,
That would enable you to...
my issue is...
Okay.
My issue is...
I'm sorry, madam.
I represent, as a volunteer,
Okay,
the
should
people
I
of
say
Bolton
close? The meeting is now closed. And the next
And
meeting
I
will be
represent
10
14 years of voluntary work in Halton Moor. The people of Halton Moor have no visible policing whatsoever. I've spent 9 months writing to individuals, trying to go back to the people as a volunteer to try and reassure them.
The meeting is closed.